The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Episode number 26. Welcome into Crossed Flags. I'm Steve West. Right beside me, Matt Nicholson. We'll get to him here in a moment. We've got plenty to get to. Going to remind you of a big change coming in the Xfinity Series broadcast slate. So stick around for that. And plenty of IndyCar stuff to talk about. Even though their season just ended, usually that means things start to pick up when it comes to them starting to get into the year 2025 in this case. But we got to talk about this young hotshot that came aboard. We've been hearing bits and pieces about a gentleman by the name of Connor Zilisch now for the past couple of months, but we hadn't really been able to see him much on the track in the upper levels of NASCAR because NASCAR has themselves a nice little rule that says you have to be at least 18 years of age to be able to get behind the wheel of a Craftsman Truck Series entry, an Xfinity Series entry, or a Cup Series entry. Well, guess who doesn't have that same little rule? It's the ARCA Menards Series. Connor Zilisch is ripping apart the ARCA Series.
In regards to the ARCA Series of how the age limitations, I was about to say the word bracketations. I don't know where I come up with that word.
I like it. We're making up new words.
Put that in the Webster's Dictionary and
Yes.
I'll take it. He's ran mainly ARCA Menards East Series, in which they are limited to 1 mile track and under. By ARCA statutes, you can run, at 16 years old, you can run 1 mile and under and road courses. That's where he's came in at. He is, for lack of a better term, he is lethal on road courses, and that's in a positive sense.
Yes.
He's very lethal on road courses. For trucks, same rule. 16 years old for 1 mile and under and road courses. Xfinity and Cup, flat 18 years old regardless. He's crossed the 18-year-old threshold.
Yep. Crossed over it just in time for this past weekend when we showed up at Watkins Glen International. Very cool, very picturesque road course up in New York State, in case you didn't know. And Connor goes out, and he's running an ARCA Menards East Series race, I think.
No, that was the national.
That was a regular? Okay.
It was a national.
So he's running an ARCA Menards race, and in pretty typical dominating fashion, he goes out and wins it. Then he turned around and got a ride in the Xfinity Series race for Junior Motorsports. He goes out in the number 88, what they call the Star Car, one that just kind of a number of different drivers are going to run throughout the course of the year. He gets in that number 88 car. He parks that on the pole and then leads, not quite half the race, and then turns around and parks it in victory lane. Connor Zilisch is the 7th person ever in the top couple of levels of NASCAR to show up in your first race, not being the debut race of the series, by the way, show up in your first race and win your first ever race. But he is the first driver in NASCAR history, Xfinity or Cup or Craftsman Truck Series, that has ever gone out and in his first race gotten the pole and then got the win. Watch out for this kid.
I will say this much. What was something I was doing Saturday? I was just spot checking the timing and scoring because I didn't have access to watch the race, because the service where I was at was very, very, very low. But I was able to pull timing and scoring up through the NASCAR app. And when I look up at one point, and Connor Zilisch is up by 9.5 seconds on Shane Van Gisbergen,
who is no slouch at a road course himself.
that makes you go, that will raise your eyebrow.
Yeah. Now, here's the fun part. We're about to have a log jam of these road course aces at Trackhouse Racing because SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, is a Trackhouse Racing driver who next year will be moving up full-time to the Cup Series.
Right.
That may say Spire on his uniform, but that's old. He's been signed to Trackhouse Racing for next year.
He's running more truck races for Spire to get more seat time. He will be in the 7 truck this weekend at Bristol. He will be in it at Kansas, and then he gets his official baptism at Talladega.
But next year he will be a full-time racer, signed by Trackhouse Racing. They're going to loan him to Junior Motorsports. He's jumping over full-time in the truck series. He's going to go full-time next year in the Xfinity series. He'll get very good equipment for Junior Motorsports. But you've said this, and are you willing to make exceptions becomes the question. Because you said if you were running NASCAR, you would institute rules that state you have to have so many wins in ARCA to move up to trucks, so many wins in trucks to move up to Xfinity, and so on. Are there exceptions to the rule?
Well, considering him, he's literally, and check the stats, he's literally batting 1,000 in ARCA right now.
Yes.
He's undefeated this year. He's won every race. This one right here, with what he's done and his level of performance, consistent performance, let's categorize it that way. He gets the grandfathered in rule.
Okay.
He can go because he's been consistent. He's not driving. I'm not going to quote Tim Dalen on that one out of Days of Thunder. I'm not going to quote him.
You want to.
I want to, but I'm not. He's driving consistent. He drives smart. He executes. It doesn't hurt when you're batting 1,000 in one series that you're running already and you have a top 5 in trucks in your only other start this year and you're about to make start number 2 tomorrow night. He gets a clear.
Okay.
He gets a clear.
Now, if you had been in the position where you were already in charge of NASCAR and had instituted this rule, and then he comes crawling along, is there room for an exception?
Back to what I said, for how well he has performed and how he's carried himself. Let's ball up into that right there.
Okay.
How he carries himself by how he does off the track and on the track. Not only as how has he performed, because he's consistently up front, no matter what he sits in.
That's true.
This one is the one very few exceptions that would be made.
Yeah. Because, and I've said this before in many different ways, a lot of these people have these absolute rules, the quote unquote common sense rules that, zero tolerance and stuff like that. Well, zero tolerance will only get you so far because generally zero tolerance leads to zero common sense. So, I understand wanting to make rules like what he was talking about in order to have a certain number of wins over a short period of time to be able to move up from one division to the next or one series to the next. But at some point in time, somebody's going to come along and they're going to upset that apple cart. And he's one of those guys.
With the come on, spit it out. With what I'm talking about from that rule wise, that is referring to your likes of your Ty Dillons. I'm gonna say Daniel, even though he's got an Xfinity championship and it was a last lap pass to win the race, I've got to put Daniel Hemrick in there.
Sure.
That's not cutting his talent ability out because he is very, very, very good short track racer. The likes of, who else could you throw in there?
Probably quite a few, actually.
There's very quite a few. Truck series.
Yeah, especially, yeah.
Truck series, I could put 75% of the field in this category.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
So there you go. This kid, though, watch out for him in the next couple of years. Unless they get another charter, a third charter over there, somebody's about to feel a really hot seat at Trackhouse Racing. Sooner rather than later.
They have the third charter.
Suarez,
Gisbergen, and Chastain. They got 3 charters.
But, okay, and that just means that, I go back to what I just said then. Unless they get another charter, in this case, they would need a 4th charter. Somebody's going to feel a really hot seat.
Or there could be.
Is it Ross Chastain? Is it Daniel Suarez? Is it SVG?
I don't think it's either one of them, honestly, because Suarez has picked it up. He's picked it up. Argue with me, fight me, I don't care. He has picked it up. Is he consistent? No, but he has went from here to here. In my eyes, is it from here to here? No, he's here. But I smell a merger coming with a partnership between them and Colleague to where there's a bonus seat. Because personally, I don't think Daniel Hemrick has done enough to hold a Cup car. He could probably go back down and run Xfinity, hone his craft a little bit more, because I'm going to tell you where he got messed up. It's when Richard Childress pulled him to Cup and then immediately knocked him right back out of the car.
That'll damage your confidence.
When he wasn't ready. He was not even close to being ready. He goes to Gibbs. There's an absolute logjam at the top of Gibbs in Cup. You're like, I'm in a no-win situation. So he takes the opportunity, goes to Colleague. He had several chances to win races at Colleague, but he was then the bridesmaid like Sheldon Creed is now, currently. He gets his shot in Cup. Has he made the most of it? I'm going to say no, but that's a 50-50 deal if you ask me, simply because in Cup, a lot of the times it's not all driver anymore. It is a lot of equipment too.
Sure.
And I've said this till I'm blue in the face on these platforms that we have. The car that you sit in will tell you real quick, is it you or is it the car? It will let you know in a hurry.
Witness the number 15 in the Xfinity Series as a prime example.
Boom.
That's all we really got to say about that.
That's it.
All right, let's turn our attention to IndyCar. We had the chance over the weekend to go up to Nashville Super Speedway to watch the Nashville Grand Prix.
Oh, boy. Woo.
They put on a pretty good show. They put on a fast show.
IndyCar on oval, my eyebrow is now raised really high.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They put on a good show. This guy walks out with his third title already. Kind of
Third in 4 years.
Quietly, truth be told. Alex Palou, 21, 23, 24. Already got 3 championships. And favorite probably going into next year, too, because he's got the equipment, he's got the teammates. And all of that stuff that they had with him and maybe moving over to Arrow McLaren Racing and then maybe getting into F1 and all that kind of stuff, that whole soap opera, thankfully, has been put behind us. So we're happy about that. Joseph Newgarden was going to go for 3 times. Nope, missed out on it. Scott Dixon trying for 7. Nope, missed out on it. Why? Because this hot shot right here. This kid's going to be somebody to watch out for, and he may be going after some of Scott Dixon's notes. He may, at some point in time, rewrite a lot more of the record books because, Will Power's up there for pole positions. Scott Dixon's up there for number of wins. And, of course, you got the A.J. Foyts and the Mario Andretti's who are always going to be up near the top of that list just because of what they've done in the history of the series. But Alex Palou, he may find himself up there before much longer.
He's well on his way. Very well on his way. And I think now after seeing IndyCar on an oval, Indianapolis is calling.
Yeah. Indianapolis 500 live in person at the track, something that that's a bucket list item right there.
Yeah, because I was Saturday when I saw the pole that was taken in Nashville being a 1.3 mile track. The pole was taken at 201. I went, oh.
Yeah, that explains why we're pressing 240 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the pole.
So there were consistently laps being ran because we had access to be able to view timing and scoring, and the last laps ran anywhere consistently between 190 and 194.
Yeah, and that's in race conditions.
206 laps completed in 1 hour and 31 minutes.
Yeah, these guys were booking it. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
So if you haven't taken in an IndyCar race, going to Barber's fantastic. I'm not complaining about it. I work there. I know.
Barber's
love
outstanding.
going there. But if you get the chance to go watch an IndyCar race on an oval track, a Nashville Superspeedway, a Worldwide Tech Raceway, a Gateway in near St. Louis, Missouri,
Iowa,
place like that.
Indy,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Go. Check it out. You'd be surprised the difference, especially if you're a NASCAR person. You'd be surprised the difference between the two.
And they did not
It's
run
amazing.
they did not run the low downforce. They ran the high downforce.
Yeah.
They were stuck.
And they were screaming.
Yes.
But that brings us to next year because you got a new kid coming into town. And we've seen a little bit of one Callum Ilott. That's how you pronounce his name.
Yep.
Callum Ilott has gotten a start or two here or there. And he's opened up some eyes with his ability to get the car to perform and adapt to it really quick. But he also had a way of kind of having a head start, if you will. He signed for next year to run full-time with this team, Prema. Prema's coming new to IndyCar next year. They're going to be a 2-car team, and they're going to be the latest full-time operation in IndyCar. Again, bringing 2 cars. That will bring 29 full-time entries for only 27 spots. So now, beginning next year, all of a sudden, we're in a situation where qualifying becomes even that much more important because 2 cars are going home. Prema Racing does not have and is not eligible for this new charter system that is being proposed by the owners of the IndyCar series, which is Penske Entertainment, Roger Penske. They're not eligible for it, and they're not worried about it. We're coming in with the intent upon moving up the ladder, and eventually at one point in time or another, we'll be able to guarantee ourselves a starting position. In the meantime, we're willing to gamble.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Absolutely.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
And signing him,
Not bad.
fantastic move on that part.
Not bad at all.
Because this is a kid that has come up with Prema through Formula 3 and Formula 2, got a couple of practice sessions in Formula 1, but you were talking about a logjam a little bit ago at Joe Gibbs Racing. There's a logjam at the top of Formula 1. It is a very, very hard egg to crack open to get into as a driver.
There's turning into a log jam at the IndyCar as well.
Exactly.
Big
But there's
logjam.
at least there's more opportunities right now in IndyCar, and that's where Callum Ilott was able to step in as a homecoming. He's going back to Prema Racing. This is going to be a fun situation to watch. We can almost guarantee he'll be in the starting lineup at the Indy 500. You expand out from 27 to 33. But when you only have 27 entries, and we'll explain why, some of the tracks that IndyCar goes to, they don't have the pit road that can fit any more than 27.
Barber is barely big enough.
Yeah. Portland International, I think, is one.
Portland, Barber, Toronto,
yeah. And
Long Beach is really close.
yeah, we're not talking about the Nashville super speedways, which were built for NASCAR, Iowa, which was built for NASCAR. So therefore, you've got the ability to carry
Gateway.
40. But yeah, those that are specifically made for and a lot of the street courses that IndyCar runs on, they're only set to do 27, 28, maybe 29. They're not really set up to be that much longer than that. So that's why. So it's going to be interesting to watch as this group runs. Callum's just the first. We're going to have to figure out who the second driver is going to be. Knowing Prema, they've got a pretty good stable of Formula 3 and Formula 2 drivers that they can choose from as well.
Well, can all things considering, with some of the names that we were told, I didn't put my eyes on it. I'm pretty sure he didn't put his eyes on it. But some of the names that we were told that were on the ground at Nashville, i.e. Logan Sargent.
Yeah. Former F1 driver for Williams.
I would dare say that's an option.
It is. Yeah. Prema's got a great eye. Okay. There are a number of drivers running in IndyCar, and there's a few drivers running right now in Formula 1 that have come up through Prema's system. So they know talent when they see it. So if Logan Sargent is being considered by them, that means they see something in him.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give the example of how Romain Grosjean's done. Romain Grosjean, excuse me. Was he spectacular in Formula 1? No. Did he have his ups and downs? Absolutely. Did Logan Sargent have ups and downs? Absolutely. But look what Romain Grosjean's done with Juncos Hollinger.
Yeah.
He's taken Juncos Hollinger And they're consistently week after week in that top 10 range.
Yeah. And fighting for top fives now all of a sudden on a regular basis.
Yeah. So I may have an eye turned differently as it comes, but if Logan Sargent pairs up with who we told he was in the hauler with at the track, Dale Coyne, he could turn Dale Coyne around and put them on that same level. Because look what Grosjean done when he went from F1 to IndyCar.
Sure.
He improved like, whoa, where did he come from?
Yeah. He adapted to it very quick.
He adapted quickly. And he said, he did say several times that I do remember, these cars are way more fun to drive than F1.
And harder.
And harder, but they're way more fun.
Yeah. It's a little bit more stripped down, doesn't have quite the amount of technology a Formula One car has, and it doesn't have power steering, which is something he noted. He noted it was very difficult to steer an IndyCar car, but he's having a fantastic time with it. And I bet you Callum Ilot's going to as well. Yep. Again, we'll keep an eye on it and keep you updated, not only here, but on the 2-hour Saturday edition of CRN as far as who Prema might go with in the near future. Another driver who's trying to work her way up through is a former 3-time champion of the old W Series. W Series was a Formula One feeder series that was, at that point in time, more equal to Formula 3. Now they've got the F1 Academy, which is an all-female series that they call more on about the Formula 4.
Basically the same thing as W, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. She went out. This is Jamie Chadwick. She went out and she won all 3 of the titles for the W Series. And then they shut the series down because the FIA wasn't really backing it. And they decided to go their own way. Well, she decided to go her own way as well. This British driver's here in the United States running Indy Next. Think Xfinity to NASCAR. Indy Next is the top feeder series to lead to IndyCar. And she's running for Andretti Global. Witness the fire suit there. Yeah. Look familiar? Alex Palou. She has said, and she's got her eye on this next year, that she might be able to get a few possibilities in IndyCar, not just in practice. She's wanting to try and see if she can't get into about 6 to 8 IndyCar races next year.
And I do not think that would be a bad move at all.
No. She's proving herself pretty good. She claimed to win in Indy Next earlier this year.
Road America.
And she's top 10 in final points right now. Do I think she's ready to go full-time in IndyCar? No. Do I think that she has earned a chance to see if she can hold her own in a couple of select races in IndyCar?
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Absolutely. So watch out for her. Let's see if her championship pedigree from the W Series and from her ability to at least claim a win, like you said, at Road America, get some podiums, and be consistently top 10 in not only races, but in the overall season points. Let's see if that translates from Indy Next up to IndyCar.
I was in the NXT race on Sunday morning when we got up there and was able to watch it. From an oval standpoint, I was extremely impressed with her. She held her own on an oval, and she has very minimal experience on an oval. She was like, I think she was 5th.
That sounds about right.
And it was 26 cars in the race, I think. Mm-hmm. She held her ground pretty well. And those NXT cars are running $180.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yep.
So, and like you said, she's an extremely good road course racer.
Sure.
Put her in the right car, and I think she would surprise you.
Yeah. So Andretti Global may have a decision to make here sometime in the near future, too. It's going to be fun to watch the future here. I mean, there are times when you go through, and I just remember this very, very well, in the early editions of the old CRN, back when we were on a different radio station and actually had a different name. I had a person call up and ask me the question of when are we going to get some new blood in NASCAR? And this is before we saw the Kyle Larsons and the Chase Elliott's. This is about 2013, 2014. And we had been building up and building up and building up to the point where all of our, veterans were in their 40s, and even the quote unquote younger people, not including a Joey Logano, they were all getting into their 30s. They were all wondering where the young blood was coming in. Now we see a whole lot of young blood in NASCAR. We're starting to see it in other series as well. We're starting to see it more in Formula One, even though Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso are right about 40 or over 40 and still running in the series. At the same time, we're starting to see drivers who are in their late teens and early 20s being in Formula 2 and getting Formula 1 practice sessions. And next year, drivers like Ollie Behrman, he's going to be moving up. And he's, what, 19?
18.
18? Think about it.
She's only 26. She's still got a lot of time left.
A lot of time left behind the wheel. So watch out for Jamie Chadwick and see if she can't get herself into that situation. And speaking of watching, one final note before we take off. And that's officially, as of this weekend, this change happens. And it's actually a good change because when we have been dealing with NASCAR on NBC, sometimes it shows up on NBC, sometimes it shows up on the USA Network. On a couple of occasions, we've been kind of shunted all the way over to Peacock when it comes to a couple of their races. Mostly IndyCar, I get it, and that's why IndyCar's gone to Fox next year. But with the new media schedule, they cut a deal. NASCAR did with NBC and the CW. They're going to go ahead and start with CW early. All the playoff races are now on the CW network, and that begins this Friday night at Bristol.
I don't think it's a bad move. It'll give us a different look, a fresh look. Even though still get some of the same voices, it'll give us a different look.
And it's NBC Sports production they're lending their production to CW for this particular effort. And that's why, for example, we've got Lee Diffie, who's now calling Cup Series races for NBC or USA, because Rick Allen is going to be, from what we can tell, the lead announcer for the Xfinity Series races on the CW. We haven't found out whether that's going to translate into 2025, but there's a pretty good bet on it.
I'm sure it probably would. There's better than positive odds.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
And what this does, by being able to use NBC Sports Productions right now, this gives the CW network a little bit more time to continue to fill out and build up their own sports production group, because they're just now getting started in sports. They've got the ACC, football and basketball. They're getting into Xfinity. They've got Live Golf. They're starting to build up their sports portfolio. They just need to make sure that they got all the personnel. The final 8 races gives them a chance to work out all the bugs, make sure that they've got the broadcast right, but using NBC Sports personnel to do it gives them a little bit more time to fill out their personnel as a whole.
And as we close here, I want to say this, a PSA to the people on social media that are constantly complaining and griping and use any other word that you want to use to fill in the third blank.
I'm just going to say it right now. You're all BMCing, bitching, moaning, and complaining.
Ding! You have now on the NASCAR broadcast arguably the best play-by-play person in sports. I did not say motorsports. I said sports.
I see where you're going.
When you have somebody that has called the IndyCar Series, the Olympics in Paris, now he's been on NASCAR, and I'm pretty sure he's called other sports too. When you have arguably the most versatile, best play-by-play person in sports calling the sport that you love, shut up if he's got an accent. Yeah. Who gives a flying you-know-what?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't care. You get, in 3 weeks, 3 weeks' time.
I can't wait for this.
You get, and we get, the gift. It is going to be a gift to motorsports broadcasting of Lee Diffie calling a race at Talladega Superspeedway.
Yeah.
You thought Daytona was insane? This is about to get absolutely ridiculously great.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to make sure that I pay a lot more attention to my job, because there's going to be the temptation on Sunday of Talladega weekend during the Yellowwood 500 to want to leave the PA booth and just stand outside the NBC broadcast booth
Because NBC
and just listen to him.
NBC leaves the door open on the broadcast booth.
They do.
We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Fox does not. NBC does.
To just stand out there in the hallway and listen to him call it. There are commentators, not talking about the analysts, okay? These are the former crew chiefs and the drivers. We get that. We're talking about the main lead announcer, okay? We have in the Cup Series the luxury of having somebody as knowledgeable and as experienced as Mike Joy when we are on Fox, and now we've got somebody that is as versatile and as knowledgeable and as, truth be told, elastic, because he can do it all in Lee Diffie. There are very few people that can go from one sport to another, one series to another, and do it seamlessly. And Lee Diffie can. What do you care if he's got an accent?
My social media push from a year ago is coming to life.
Hashtag Diffie to Dago.
Diffie to Dago.
This guy right
is
here.
coming to life. 1. 2, NBC, if you don't do a short thing for pre-race of showing Lee Diffie going down the boulevard on Saturday night,
Come
you
on.
are doing an injustice to American motorsports.
Yes. He needs to be there and he needs to experience it all. Absolutely. So, yeah.
If you want somebody to carry him NBC, I will be glad to take him down the boulevard.
We'll escort him. We're good. We're good with that. We'll
After
volunteer right now.
after I have this doctor's appointment in a little bit, I may be on a golf cart, but I will still carry him. I don't care.
Yeah, he's got to experience the whole thing. And if you've never experienced the infield at Talladega, you need to treat yourself. But be prepared.
Bingo.
Just saying. Be prepared for this. Friday night, CW takes over the Xfinity, and from here all the way through the next television contract, by the way, 2031, CW hosts the Xfinity series. Okay? All right. That'll wrap up episode number 26. This weekend, we're going to give you a full 2-hour show, you and me both, because Coach Matt right here has an afternoon game. So we're going to be with you the entire 2 hours. We'll fill in a little bit more if we find out more about what Prima, for example, Prima Racing is going to do. Maybe they can figure out who the teammate for Callum Ilott is going to be already, but I think it's going to take a couple more weeks before they make that announcement. Expect more announcements when it comes to IndyCar as well. Again, now that the 2024 season is over, even though Alex Palou's celebrating, all the teams are already looking ahead to 2025 and making sure they've got all their ducks in a row and they're ready to go racing when we get to St. Petersburg next March. We're going to be ready for you Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Check us out on YouTube, CRN Live, and of course, Cross Flags next Wednesday. Hope you join us then. We'll talk to you on Saturday.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.